Hello.
Hi.
Can you tell everyone who you are?
I'm Sandy Carlin, a mother in Palmerston.
A mother. And how many children have you got?
I've got two children.
And how old are they?
I've got a 22-year-old and a nearly 32-year-old.
Wow.
Wow, yeah.
And
there's a gap. There's a reason for the gap.
Are they vaccinated or unvaccinated?
Well, actually, really, my story starts with me.
Okay, let's hear it. Do tell us.
Okay. In the 1970s, I was immunised in an immunisation measles or single rubella vaccine program.
Sorry guys, we can't hear. Okay, come on.
Yeah, I was vaccinated in a rubella program in the schools in the Bay of Plenty, and shortly afterwards my neck swelled. I ended up with severe headaches. I ended up hospitalised for 10 days. I had a sleeping illness. I couldn't stay awake for more than an hour and a half. Really bad fatigue, muscle, joint type problems. I don't know for sure, but I've got hearing loss in one of my ears, scarring in one of my ears.
1 second, I'm sorry. I know you're saying the picture's sideways.
I know, I'm about to check that right now.
Who's checking you out, Periscope? Oh, I'm sorry.
I was off school for a year and ended up with gut problems, basically bent over in pain, couldn't eat certain foods and stuff like that. And then, well, probably would have been a period of 10 years before I slowly started to come, well, a normal right for people that are vaccinated normally and don't have problems. And then basically got married and I had my first child, Marcus. He was born in 1985. He's now 32 years old, or nearly 32 years old. After he was born, I had some problems. He had the midline in his mouth wasn't formed properly, and the paediatrician was concerned and advised not to vaccinate him, so he didn't have his 6-week.
She advised not to vaccinate him because there was something wrong with his mouth?
Yes, yeah. Where he was tongue-tied, and he also had in the back, you know, the little dangly thing in the back. There was 2 of them, like, I can't remember what you call it.
Right, and so because of that, you were told not to vaccinate?
Yes.
That's kind of odd, but yes, okay. Anyway, great, thank goodness she did, yeah.
So he didn't have his first hoof and cough vaccines and that. I do recall when he was 42 days old, because of all the fearing and the scaring and everything else, basically I feared he would get hoof and cough and, I don't know, choke and die or whatever. He didn't. When he was 15 months old, I decided to take him to the GP and actually ask them to. I did have concerns because of what had happened to me as a child. So we went to the GP, and the GP vaccinated him.
With what?
Just single measles at that stage. It was before MMR came in. It was about 3.5 years. 1987.
So just a single measles
vaccine, yes, the Romanex one. You know, I expressed my concerns and all the rest of it, but they were just wiped over with, you wouldn't go through life without wearing a seatbelt and all the other lines. New Zealand only uses safe vaccines that are fully tested overseas. Was the other line? That was a big one.
New Zealand
only uses safe vaccines that are fully tested overseas. So he gave him the vaccination. Within an hour he became sleepy. We were at home, and I gave him a quick lunch and put him to bed. He had the vaccine at about 10:30 in the morning, and by about 11:30 he was pretty much out to it. I couldn't erase him for 19 hours. I contacted the surgery, and rang them and actually told them that I couldn't wake my son, and I was told that I should be thankful that he's actually sleeping, because most babies are irritable after vaccinations. So it was the next morning that he woke with a high-pitched scream, back-arching eye rolling, all the stuff. Basically, your mention of the head banging, I just broke into tears when I heard on the movie, because Marcus was constantly head banging, in pain, rocking backwards and forwards, gut problems, diarrhoea, and then next minute constipation, going for 2 weeks without pooping, bleeding from the bowel, on his hands and knees, screaming, autistic behaviours, middle ear infections.
And this is all just from the single measles vaccine.
So it wasn't MMR.
That's why it's not okay. Can we just
It is sideways, by the way.
But then we'll have to come off and come back on again. Guys, just finish this and we'll come back off on Periscope.
His diagnosis, well, we finally managed to get him to see a paediatrician. When I did take him to the hospital, he was vomiting, and as soon as I mentioned vaccination, I was basically told to go home. They didn't want vomit on their floor, so it was, yeah. I didn't get any support from the GP. I have had the finger since from that GP. We had lawyers involved. As for getting ACC, that went through pretty quickly. The paediatrician who knew him before the vaccination was extremely shocked, and his diagnosis was organic brain syndrome due to a post-measles vaccine encephalopathy.
Go slow on that. His diagnosis was
organic brain syndrome.
Brain syndrome?
Yes. And that's basically what an organic brain syndrome is.
Caused by or associated with impairment of brain tissue function. And has anybody acknowledged that it was from the single measles vaccine?
Yes, the paediatrician did.
Have you got it in writing?
Yeah, yes. That's again from the nurse, basically, regarding it. This is the ACC form that was actually filled out from the paediatrician saying an encephalopathy from the measles vaccine.
Yeah, behavioural change following measles immunisation, encephalopathy. I can't really read that writing. Reaction following. This is typical doctor's writing. Measles immunisation, developmental regression and severe behavioural problems. Wow. There you go.
Yeah, and then after that...
did you report the injury?
It wasn't reported to CARM as such,
Yeah.
but it was filed with ACC. Okay. Within 6 weeks it was accepted. This is a memo from ACC, from the doctor that actually, the medical advisor, that actually accepted the vaccine claim for neurological damage from the measles vaccine.
Let me have a look, see if we can read that. I think it's a chance of 1 in a million.
Yes.
Must be
Funny.
Considered rare.
Rare.
Must be considered rare. The IP's condition would be accepted as
I like the way when they
something due to the injection, and is a very rare event and very serious. So this is them saying...
That's ACC, that's from ACC, his file.
Well, this says IP's progress is reported as being...
Normal, or would be...
Something normal up to time of injection, and significant symptoms occurred
on the day of,
on the same day as this injection, but after, underlines the injection. The paediatrician's assessment should be accepted, I think, as a chance of 1 in a million. Must be considered rare, so major warning. All right.
Right, and this is a letter from ACC accepting it, that they actually accept the claim. ACC.
So ACC, Accident Compensation Corporation, after much consideration, the corporation has now accepted your son's claim, caused as a result of a reaction to measles immunisation. It would be appreciated if you could detail in what way we can help you. What way we can help you?
Well, I will say, they actually paid out teacher aid hours. He required teacher aid hours for the whole of his schooling, 1-to-1 teacher aid hours. Transport to and from school. A great deal of medical costs were covered, going up to Starship Hospital. There was a lot of things that were actually covered.
Wow.
Wow.
Single measles vaccine is not okay, people. We all know how I feel about that. Okay.
And then these are letters, basically notes from doctors. It's not what I've said. These are what actually doctors have actually seen of autistic behaviours, rigours, fits, seizures, all the other stuff that goes down. Excuse the writing. I didn't write it. These are
thank you for
doctors.
this young boy. Okay. Yeah, so these are just all notes.
And they're just basically all notes of basically what actually happened. Also, they tested him to see if he had antibodies from the measles vaccination, and the results all came back negative. He didn't have any IgGs, antibodies or titers at all. This is a letter from, it's only page 4 of a letter from Starship, actually stating that he had primary vaccine failure. That means that the vaccine didn't work. So that was a waste of time.
It means the vaccine. What, that particular one?
Yeah, that one. It didn't work on Marcus anyway.
Certainly did not.
No. This here is basically notes from even 1991. The vaccine reaction happened in early 87. And basically about him, Marcus, me writing here about tummy bites, describing what he was trying to describe to me, that he had tummy bites and the pain in his gut. And windows in the house used to be smashed quite regularly. Toys were lined up from the front door to the back door.
How old is he now?
He's nearly 32.
And how is he doing now?
He's come a long way. He's had a lot of therapy. He lost his speech, behaviour regressed, all basically everything that everybody else has been experiencing. Teacher aid hours and all the rest of it. He's now independent, as in living basically on his own.
Wow. And
he's also working. He's at work at the moment.
What does he do?
He actually drives a truck. He does deliveries.
Oh wow. And does he have friends?
All those on the spectrum.
Oh.
They're his friends. Which there's quite a few on the spectrum out there.
Does he have a
society that seems to be.
Does he have any pain?
Does he have any pain? He's taking something basically that helps him with the seizures, which is not legal.
Okay, don't talk about it. Just do not. We're in enough trouble as it is. Oh my goodness. Okay, so Periscope, I'm going to hand you over to Anu, who's going to take you off and bring you back on, see if you can sort out that problem. And meanwhile, we're going to carry this interview carry it on We Are VAXXED on YouTube. I've got illness. Yeah,
but basically, you used to have a juvenile spring eruption of the ears.
Wait, explain to these people what you just said to me.
He had juvenile spring eruption of the ears, where his ears were sensitive to light, not the sun. Good as gold in the summertime, when the sun shines, but just basically this time of year. And his ears used to bubble up, and used to have to keep bandages on.
Bubble up?
Bubble up, yeah.
What does that mean?
There used to be bubbles on it. It looked like chicken pox, but it wasn't chicken pox. And it would bubble up and they'd burst and they'd dry out. And
he's suffered a lot, hasn't he?
Yes, he has, yeah.
But you don't think he's suffering anymore?
I wouldn't want to go one way or the other there. I don't know. I don't know.
A lot of these adults, I think, have just learnt to live all their life.
Yeah, with it. So I don't know. He also had an illness that he used to break out in, like a measles type rash even though he didn't have antibodies to it.
Look at this. I think we're looking on the actual tummy, if you can see that there.
Yeah, it's a bit hard to actually see. Reoccurring illness with high temperatures. It's basically his grommet that he had in his ears. That's a grommet in there.
So grommet, I think Americans call this the ear tube, is
that
right?
Ear tube, yes, that's right, yep.
Yeah, we call it grommets in England and clearly over here. So many of our children, when they first get injured, they think they've lost their hearing and antibiotics.
That's right.
And off they go to have their ear tubes in and adenoids out.
He used to scream, and you'd turn around and you'd see pus on the wall. it would just
That's awful.
burst out.
Did he bang his head?
Yes, he was constantly smashing his head. We had psychologists and psychiatrists, and this here is actually a temperature chart. I'd rather have measles personally and deal with temperatures from measles than
so
that.
Every mum would rather have measles and
so,
have her child go through this. I agree with you.
40.6 basically going and dropping right down to 34.5. Just out of control stuff. I was also an idiot, and there was the hepatitis B campaign in the year after Marcus had the measles vaccine, and there was a big push. It's supposed to be some scary disease, so I raced out, and he had, I think it was 4 shots.
Of what?
Hepatitis B. Not on the same day, spread out.
Obviously not.
He would have been 15 months he had the measles vaccine, so you're looking at close to 2, just over 2 years of age.
Oh, poor guy.
And his knees, he ended up with polyarthritis following that, which has also been admitted. We didn't bother about ACC with that one because we had enough to deal with. We just dealt with the symptoms, and that was it. Yeah. And
what a horrific. And someone just said none of this is scientifically proven, which makes me laugh because you've got paediatricians and
this is
saying,
paediatricians.
actually, yes, it did happen.
Yeah.
So Greg is blocked. So I just managed to. It's the first time I've managed to block anybody on We Are VAXXED. We can do it. I just did it. I think. If Greg comes back, then I didn't. Okay.
1990 was when the claim was put through ACC, and around that time I'd never come across anybody that hadn't vaccinated, and I was actually working for Plunkett at the time, the Plunkett Society, and they had a Women's Weekly book, Australian Women's Weekly book, and basically on the desk, and I picked it up, and I've kept this article, and this is twins that actually had a reaction to the DPT vaccine, and also another girl.
Let's just show this, if we can do it like this. So let's start with We Are VAXXED. This is an article of twins, you say, that have had a reaction to the DPT. And was that recognised, or was it just the parents?
Just the parents, basically.
This is quite hard to show.
But it mentioned the Immunisation Awareness Society at the time, and it mentioned ACC, which we had already been accepted.
And Miss below is what? Another child?
Yes.
Newspaper clippings of parents warning all the way back in those days.
In the 1990s, 80s, 70s.
Same thing in England and America as well. Parents were warning way back then, but of course ignored, told they were crazy, and that's why...
My own mother was actually warned before I had my rubella vaccine. There was a mother that didn't vaccinate, although I didn't personally know. And she was actually warned then, and it was mentioned. But you do as you do.
You had another child?
Yes, I've had another child since. It was a 9.5-year gap, which is understandable. There's no way I could have another child in the earlier days. And Casey's her name, and she's now 22. She's had no vaccines.
At all?
At all, no. Or except for the vitamin K. The doctor turned around and asked me if I wanted to give her the vitamin K, and I said, well, I better give her something because she's not having the vaccine. So I don't know why I said that. Well, you just give her.
And how is she?
Her first 7 years of life, she didn't have any ear infections. She's only ever had an ear infection, and that was more later in life. She didn't have any of the problems that Marcus had in the first 7 years. Since then, though, there's been something else that has actually happened that has changed that. It's nothing to do with this.
So she's doing, what does she do now? She work?
Yes, she does work, yeah. I'd rather not talk about it.
Then you don't have to.
Yeah.
But is there a difference between your son and
there was a difference, a big difference in health. Casey didn't in childhood. Casey did not get any ear infections. She didn't have the colds, the runny noses. She didn't headbang. She didn't squirt from her ass. She wasn't constipated. She didn't have blood running out her backside. She didn't have behavioural problems. She didn't have learning disabilities or problems at school. Yeah.
So that will be that then.
That would be that, yeah.
Do you have anything else you'd like to tell the people? Thank you, Steph. Thank you very much for telling your story. It's a very important story. The parents kept complaining again.
Yeah, they're complaining because it's blurry, but they're all, you know.
Some are, some aren't.
Yeah, I know. But the thing is, it's connection, you know what I mean? We can't do anything about it. Guys, if you're on Periscope, it's not blurry, it's pixelated, meaning the internet is not good.
But some are saying that they're fine. Some have.
No, I'm seeing the same thing, blurry, or not blurry, pixelated. Now I'm using their terminology.
Yeah, we are actually looking good.
Yeah.
Which is unusual.
Yeah. All I can say is research. Don't just basically go to think if you're going to go to your practice nurse or your doctor and he's going to give you the information.
Yeah, that's
read
really
the vaccine
important.
inserts.
How do you recommend people research? Because that's the key here. Just saying research isn't good enough these days because most people just go to their doctors.
Yeah. Well, if you go on Google, basically you're accused of being a Google mother, but
you get several pages of pro-vax before you get to the anti-vax.
Yeah. But if you go on Google and you actually Google in PubMed articles, go for the medical articles that they don't want you to see.
Right, but more importantly, people
stuff.
go for the parent stories and anything else because that's what you trust. Stories like this now, and the thousands of stories of parents speaking honestly to you. That is the truth. I don't trust science.
I've also I did run a group jabs, which I would like to acknowledge Jackie and John Fletcher.
Jackie Fletcher, John Fletcher, they are the king and queen. Well, Jackie Fletcher is the queen of all of this movement. I swear to God, that woman's been doing it for years. She's fantastic.
Yeah, and well, she set us up here in New Zealand to help me set.
Did she?
Yeah.
She's been through hell and back.
Yes. Yeah.
So if you don't know who Jackie Fletcher is, she's started JABS.
Yeah, Justice Awareness and Basic Support in the UK.
She's been doing it for years and years.
Since about 1990.
And I love her.
4, I think, 95, something like that.
Yeah, she's Google her and her terrible story of what happened to her son. Somewhere on the media channel we have her story. I don't know where it is, but it's somewhere. Andy and I went to film her many years ago. But yes, what do you want to say about Jackie? Thank you.
Thank you very much, Jackie.
Thank you, Jackie. We love you, Jackie Fletcher. Anything else?
Anything else?
No, thank you for telling the story.
Yeah, it's just been experience basically, and having other parents come. I mean, people that I've actually knew that have actually come to me and their babies have died, and having to deal with that. In the 1990 or 1997, 1998 measles vaccine campaign that they had here in New Zealand, there was actually 6 babies or 6 children that died. 2 of them basically had a connection with me personally, with somebody I knew. One a 9-year-old girl and the other a 7-year-old boy. But none of that was put out in the media. Nobody knows nothing about it. I'm going to actually fill in a heart for one of those children when I'm finished here.
Yeah, are the hearts here? Yes, they are. Yes, please go and do that. Wow. Well, thank you for. That's the reason we do what we do, so you can highlight. People can highlight what the press have hidden. We're going to.
But they need to do some sort of testing. I mean, Marcus and myself, basically, with it coming through, if you know what I mean, me reacting how I did to a single rubella, and then Marcus reacting to a single measles. There has to be something underlining that has us react, basically, and they need to investigate, which they don't. They just don't care. So.
Can I ask something? Somebody just messaged me, someone that you know, asked me to ask you to talk about the other reactions in your town when this happened to you. And they say it's 1 in a million, but there were other reactions in your town.
My reaction.
No, other measles vaccine reactions in your town?
She just did talk about 2 deaths.
Oh yeah, I talked about 2 deaths.
Is there more?
Okay.
Is there more?
Yeah, there's actually 6 all up, but they weren't all in the town.
Okay.
Yep, in the North Island of New Zealand.
So let's do that again. So there were 6.
There were 6 deaths that I'm
6 deaths
that
from
I'm
the
aware of measles or MMR vaccine.
Right.
In
your town?
Not in my town.
No,
in the North Island of New Zealand.
And that was not reported on. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah. None of that's been
That's
reported.
hardly surprising.
My son's reaction wasn't reported. It was ACC accepted. It was medically acknowledged. It was the paediatrician that acknowledged it. I've been spat at in the street. I've had a doctor off the street come up to me and say there's no such thing as an encephalopathy.
Wait, stop a second. Did you just say that you've been spat at in the street?
Yes.
Who spat at you? Who?
The doctor, and I got that.
The doctor did that to you, which is
that's
interesting because we have doctors telling our side that they're being spat on. Nobody that any of our VAXXED team are aware of has ever spat on a pro-vaxxer or a doctor or a journalist or anybody like that. Yet you are a mum with an injured child that's been acknowledged by the paediatrician and been acknowledged by others.
ACC, accepted by ACC.
That has been vaccine injured from a single measles, and you are spat on in the street.
Actually, just before I finish.
Can we just finish this one second? You were spat on in the street by a doctor.
And I've had the fingers from the doctor that vaccinated him because we got a lawyer involved because I wanted the medical notes. The medical notes all disappeared.
It's just disgusting. Are you listening to that, media? Because I know the media are listening right now. I know you are. Are you hearing that? Please report sensibly and appropriately and tell the truth.
I want this letter read out. Basically, it's a letter from a professor at Otago Medical School that acknowledges my son's vaccine reaction. It's basically regarding to...
So this is from the Department of General Practice, University of Otago.
Yes.
Dear Mrs. Yu,
Mrs. Yu here.
It says, I have read through all of everything very carefully. There is no doubt that there is a direct relationship between your son's immunisation and the measles vaccine. With respect to what might have caused the problem, our belief is that such reactions are probably caused by the clumping of red blood corpuscles in the circulation of the brain as a result of the virus contained in the vaccine. And then it goes on to say, when your child has become handicapped because you followed the advice of doctors, and the real problem here is the refusal of the medical profession to share in your suffering by at least admitting that in the case the immunisation was a very bad idea. Signed by J.C. Murdoch, Professor of General Practice. So, again, this is just, people stepping up, and doctors in the medical profession, a good side, stepping up and talking about it and then being silenced by what I can only call the dark side, because this is such a dark situation that we're in. And I feel so bad for you, and on behalf of all of us, parents and people here on Periscope, YouTube, and We Are Vaxxed, we're so sorry that you got spat on by a medical professional. Just
the doctor also coming up and saying there's no such thing as an encephalopathy or encephalitis. I mean, I just looked and just walked off. It's just like...
There's no such thing.
There's no such thing. Well, what the hell is all in the medical literature? Why did they do a childhood encephalopathy study?
It's in the insert.
What about the mad cows?
Well, listen, we're really sorry for your boy. Really, truly, and for you and all that you've been through. It's disgusting.
It's been a big learning experience. If it hadn't happened to me, I would have been one of those that just went around totally ignorant, didn't know anything, basically blamed the unvaccinated for diseases and stuff, didn't do any research, didn't get off my ass, just continued, I don't know, spitting out the diarrhea from the media and everybody else.
Well, I'm just really glad you're on our side. Would not want you on the other side, would we? But I mean, for your boy though, give him a big hug and kiss from everybody.
He might turn up here later.
Oh, good. We want to meet him.
I don't know if you do.
Well, yes, we do actually. Yes, we do want to meet him. But they're saying they love you and they're sending you hearts and love. All right.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Oh, and this is a picture of me too.
Oh,
I'm vaccinated and my
look at that. I'm going to take it along. We're going to start with We Are Vaxxed. There they are, the cutest little two.
Little persons.
I love all his little freckles. There we go.
He hasn't got them anymore.
And then, no, that wasn't We Are VAXXED. Was that We Are VAXXED? I'm confused where they are. That was YouTube. So this is Periscope. Sorry, Periscope. I lost you for a second. There they are. Very cute. Wonderful children.
But you know, the lies, everything that's come out of medical people's contradicting. I even went back to the medical surgery that vaccinated him with another child, a mother, family friend basically wanted me to go with her because her child was due for the vaccinations and she didn't want to vaccinate and she needed somebody with her. So I went along and I sat there. Well, this doctor told me, another doctor, or told me and her that she had been practising since 1976 and never has she seen a vaccine reaction and never has there been a vaccine reaction or issue basically, or anyone document one in the surgery. And I looked at the mother and we both looked at the room where Marcus was vaccinated.
You just knocked YouTube over in protest. Yeah, no.
But yeah, you go along and you just listen to, it's just the bullshit that's.
Well, I think this is where they're going to go wrong, is it that they're underestimating the ultimate intelligence of people. So people like you telling your story makes a massive difference. Thank you so much. Big round of applause.
But one medical word after another.
Thank you so much, and we want to meet your son, bring him along. All right, next story, hello. Come sit down. Does Kathy know?